Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another cracking installment of Built in California, where I am taking a deep dive look into some of the startup founders who are innovating in the state of California, or the great state of California, and who I think you need to hear about. With me on the line is Steve Delson, the co-founder of Gate 5. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure's all mine, man. Happy to make a difference to the startup ecosystem of America, one conversation at a time. So,
Yes.
why don't you give our viewers and audience around the world the elevator pitch about you? What's your backstory, and what led to the founding of Gate 5?
Okay, thank you. So we start off, Gate 5 has developed an innovative and scalable process that turns something that's commonly considered a very gross waste, sewage sludge, into 100% safe and usable and sustainable uh, uh, products. We turn it into clean water, uh, renewable energy, and building material. You know, we take this material that's very gross for people to have to deal with, and we make it into safe and usable products that are a good fit for the concerns about the climate and sustainability.
hmm So let's talk about that, because there's a lot of noise around sustainability, carbon credits, this, global warming, that, and so from your perspective, Steve, what's the problem here? So what's interesting, just to maybe add to that, obviously I've had a chat to you prior to going live, is that you're not in the removal of waste. You're in the you are in the removal of waste. You're not in the reduction of waste. And I think that's quite an interesting insight. But what is the problem here? Like, how big is this? What does the world need to know?
Well, there are 16,000 wastewater treatment plants in the United States and 75,000 worldwide. And those wastewater treatment plants are only serving 25% of the world's population. So there's 6 billion people who have no sanitation at all. And that leads to disease, that leads to lots of environmental challenges and problems. The oceans and streams are clogged, with sewage waste. And what we do is we recognize that this material, this sewage sludge is what we call the solid part. It has as much energy in it as coal, but it's not a fossil fuel. So why are we wasting this? Why aren't we using it? We can adapt the coal industry's infrastructure very easily to process our product. And our process is very scalable. We can serve small villages in developing countries, or we can scale up and serve large municipalities in the developed world.
So, Steve, you guys as a team, you have developed a thermal process for recycling waste. How does this thermal process actually work? So, if you think about a sewage treatment plant out in California, or maybe some other part of the world, India, South Africa, who knows, how does this thermal process actually eliminate this waste?
Certainly. Well, typically waste comes into it. Where there is wastewater treatment plants, the waste is intercepted, and the liquid is easily processed and to be able to be reused as landscape or other kinds of water uses. But the solids themselves, which are about 2% solids and 98% water, this is the organic material, the grit and things like that. What we do is we dry this material. We remove the water, to take it from 2% solids to 40% solids, and then we put it in a dryer, a flash dryer, that where we have we have burnt combusted material that we've dried, and the heat that's produced. Some of the heat is used for the drying, but as much as 70 to 75% of the heat is not needed for the drying. So we use that to run a turbine to produce renewable electricity. So we can help communities that don't have electricity, or we can complement a system of other renewables like wind and solar. We can run at night, and we can run when the wind's not blowing. We're a very versatile resource.
Absolutely. And Steve, you guys have raised, according to my notes here, you guys have raised roughly $7 million over the preceding few years. What is your immediate challenge as it relates to scaling Gate 5?
Well, the issue with Gate 5 is that the wastewater industry worldwide is very risk adverse. There have been a lot of what my colleagues call snake oil salesmen making grand promises. So the industry is not going to jump on board anymore. So what we've been challenged to do is to raise the money so that we can build and operate a system at a wastewater treatment plant done in a very transparent manner, so that the industry can look over our shoulder and say, yes, this is going to work, or it's going to work except for that. So we will gain a lot from our first plant, because there's a big transition from doing stuff on paper to doing stuff in the field. But we have tested every component of our process, and all of the equipment that we use has been utilized in many other industries. So there's no black boxes. We're not saying, we don't have a secret. We've invited the industry to look over our shoulder and participate with us. And that's going to allow us to, it allowed us to gain a grant from the California Energy Commission towards our first project. And we've gone back to our early investors, and they've reinvested money, and we're now seeking to raise a total of $15 million in two stages. The first stage will be the $5 million, which will get us the money we need to complete the system that we're building that's in design now. And then the last $10 million will take the company to a point where we'll be financially self-sufficient.
So, Steve, what has your experience been like with trying to raise capital for Gate 5? What has the sort of, response been to, what you are doing as a team around the elimination of sewage waste, as an example? Is the venture capital and, or by extension, investor community interested, and do they buy into this sustainable play that Gate 5 is looking to scale?
We get a lot of encouragement from all kinds of VC and all kinds of investors and the community. But the issue always comes down with venture capital is the timing of the return. We're talking about infrastructure here. We're not talking about SaaS or an app or something that has a consumer product multiple on it. The wastewater treatment plant is going to take a year to design, a year to build, and it's going to operate for about 25 years just on the initial equipment. So the return it's not the rocket ship that the VC community is used to, but it's steady cash flow. And it will become, as we get systems built, we're planning on either selling them or owning and operating them. We could bundle these together and sell them like a REIT, to be almost an annuity, 25-year annuity for investors that can complement the rest of their portfolio. So that's what we're setting forth. That's the story we're setting forth to tell.
Okay, so what's the roadmap in terms of Gate 5 and your first plant? So you basically have a first plant in operation. Where is it, and what are the timelines? So, like, where are you in this journey of building this pilot infrastructure, if you like? And so investors in the community can understand, when are you likely to get some kind of quantifiable return, not only for the environment, but for potential investors too.
Right. Well, we are, the first thing we did is we had to find a wastewater agency who was willing to be an early adopter. And we're very fortunate that the Santa Margarita Water District in South Orange County, California, has that mindset where they're willing to look at something. they are partnering with us on our first project, along with the California Energy Commission and Stanford University and another company, Micromedia Filtration. We received a grant from the CEC last year, and that's kind of where that's when we started. We got out of the starting blocks at that point. We are now to the point where we've sized our equipment, we've selected our equipment, and we're starting to do our equipment orders. Our on-site construction will start by the end of this year. The plant itself will be built in components off-site, and it'll be brought onto the property probably about this time in 2020, 2023, and we'll be able to run this system for about after a 6-month period. We expect that we will have we have a long list of, we like to say we have a long list of people willing to be the second one to utilize our process. And we really believe that's true. We've stuck to Southern California, where we have our reputation and we have we have most of our resources are, and we've kind of taken the position like the Frank Sinatra song, that if you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. Some people say, why California? It's so regulated. Well, the world's going to get regulated. California is just ahead of everything.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned Stanford. What's the relationship or partnership with Stanford Research and Gate 5?
Well, the wastewater, the engineering portion of Stanford, led by Dr. Craig Criddle and Dr. Sebastian Tillman, have an innovation center where they're testing different components of in the wastewater industry. And we approached them, and in talking through them, we came up with the best of our process and the best of another process from on the water treatment side for micromedia filtration. And Stanford is kind of the technology and the glue that put everything together and pointed out the compromises and how things can work. They have a long history of leadership in this industry, as does, fortunately, we're located on the UC Irvine campus. University of California, Irvine also has a very strong history in renewable energy and wastewater to energy nexus.
So if I can maybe change gears here quickly and talk about more around the process. So from my understanding, and please help our audience also understand around the role of methane actually in this, because I recognize that you have Stanford as a partner, you have these other partners from an infrastructure perspective, and this is important to understand what you're going to be testing for and measuring, in this initial pilot. So my understanding is that you actually use methane in the waste to eliminate the waste itself, and then still have energy and electricity left over. Could you maybe just unpack that? Like, how on earth is this possible? How do you use methane in the waste to remove the waste itself if it's part of the waste? Does it make sense?
Yes, and then I need to turn your thinking just a little bit. Our process being a thermal process, there is no methane involved. Methane is produced in the wastewater industry from decomposition of microbes decomposing the sludge, and methane being a combination of hydrogen and carbon. We keep the material separate and we combust it, so there is no methane formed in the Gate 5 process, and we think that's a big plus, because methane is becoming a very recognized troublesome greenhouse gas. So by our calculations, in California alone, there's about 700,000 tons of methane generated annually at the 250 wastewater treatment plants in California. So to the degree that those plants can move away from a biological process and move to a thermal process, that's an elimination of methane going into the environment.
And talk to me about your patents. What patents do you have around this innovative process?
We have patents in about 7 or 8 different countries. But talking about the U.S. patent, because that's the most relevant to where we're starting out our business. What we've done is the patent is focused on the configuration of proven equipment and the operating points. The temperatures we operate at, how we use heat exchangers to recover rather than waste energy that increases the amount of energy left at the end of our process that we can produce electricity with.
Fantastic. And who's part of the founding team, Steve? How did you guys get together, and why does this problem matter to you as a collective so much?
Well, so one of our founders is a business person who in my previous career as a real estate developer, I worked with. He did my business insurance. His name is Richard Sherman, and he has one of his clients offered him a provisional patent in lieu of payment, and Rich happened to come. He called on me and said, "What does this look like? Is this worth anything?" And I felt it was. I reached out to attorneys at the same firm that does the intellectual property work for Apple, and also worked with a university professor here at UCI, and we confirmed that this was something new that hasn't been patented before. So we set forth to do that. The initial funding of the project come from the Heinz family, as in ketchup. Lisa Heinz is the great granddaughter of Henry Heinz, and her father led the West Coast version of the Heinz family. And Lisa is our primary shareholder, and she's long had a history on the environment, and so we all kind of came together around those goals. I designed a wastewater treatment plant in the 90s for the city of Mission in Mission Viejo, which is where the water district is that we're ending up working with now. So we've been able to keep it a pretty workable family.
Awesome stuff. And so, Steve, what do you need help with right now? How can the community give you a helping hand in this next phase of your growth?
Recognizing the importance of infrastructure. We hear in the infrastructure bill that's recently been passed how infrastructure in the United States is crumbling and needs to be replaced. An awful lot of wastewater treatment plants were built in the 60s and 70s, and they're coming to the end of their economic life now. And the community should demand that these wastewater facilities be more than just removing waste, but be resource recovery facilities. Another interesting point is Bill Gates is well known as a very strong environmentalist, and is doing a lot for vaccines and doing a lot for water treatment and the like. One of the things that he cites is what he calls the green premium, and it frustrates many people that renewable solutions, they shouldn't really cost more than business as usual. Because of the simplicity of our system, by eliminating the biology, eliminating a lot of the equipment, there is no premium for using our green technology. So it's very important for the world to see that it doesn't have to cost more to do things in a sustainable manner. So that's part of the message that we need to get out there, so that the venture community will embrace infrastructure as much as they embrace SaaS and other technologies.
Yeah, what you're saying is what SpaceX is doing around rocket costs, right? So getting a payload into orbit, so reducing that cost, making that more sustainable, having rockets, land so that they're reusable, brings that cost all the way down. and as a consequence, it's actually opening up a new modern day space race. That's another reference to what you're saying, right, Steve?
That's a good analogy. Yes, yes. Typically, what wastewater is separated into two categories. The water is treated and disinfected, and in some communities, enlightened communities, will use that for landscape irrigation or even all the way to potable use. But far too much of this water is dumped in the ocean or dumped in rivers. It's just not utilized. And sludge, the solids part, it's even more troublesome, because in California, you used to be able to put the solids used to go into landfills, but landfills are organic materials being banned in landfills. So that means there needs to be another place for that. And sadly, the solution is to haul it off to Arizona, or haul it off to rural portions of California and spread it on the ground. Well, none of that is necessary. We can eliminate the methane, we can eliminate the pollution from the transportation, and we can tap into a resource that can help us in a very healthy manner.
Fantastic. And so, Steve, let's wrap this up. Why do you do what you do? Like, this has been a 10-year journey for you and your team. Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Sometimes I try to stay in bed, but I can't. The fact that this is an attainable goal. We conceptually, it made sense. We've proven over the last 10 years, from the standpoint of looking at it from a technical point of view, from a equipment point of view, from third-party validations and testing. This can happen now, and it'll a year, this time next year, we will have our facility will have run so much that we'll have people. We think there'll be a line outside the door, and we think this is great. Our approach is going to be imitated and advanced and duplicated. This is such a large market. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and only 2 billion of them have any kind of sanitation. So more, we can model how things should be done, and that's a happy legacy.
Yep, and I'm really excited to see what kind of a happy legacy you're going to leave behind. And what you're doing is hard. Building any kind of startup is hard, but infrastructure is like a whole another level of hard. So congratulations on all your success to date. We wish you all the very best in the future. Thank you for being on the show with me.
Thank you, Matt. My pleasure. Appreciate the opportunity to tell my story.